Greetings, MelVee family. I hope I find you well today. I'm your host, Melusi Ndhlalambi from MelVee Broadcasting Network, and on this episode, we're presenting the MelVeeTalks. We talk about anything, anyone, anywhere, and anyhow. But today I have a very special friend, someone I know from way back in time. I think as long as I can remember my life, it's someone I've grown up with, someone I've played with, someone I've made serious life decisions with, and someone who has been on my side for many, many years. I think short of anything else, I could call him my best friend. As we grew up, perhaps we've known each other and walked many similar pathways, and the Lord has led us, and we've remained friends until today. You know, as the Bible says, there are some friends that sticks closer than a brother, and sometimes friends, the verse says their brothers are for adversity, but there's a friend who sticks closer. Today I'm talking to someone I want to unveil. You've known him before as Blessing Machona, but today I'm unveiling him as Dr. Blessing Machona. Greetings, Doc.
Thank you, Melusi. How are you? I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, man.
And thank you for that very humbling introduction.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you so much.
You made it.
At last. At last, you know, it's a journey.
Yes.
Yeah, so it needs,
how does it feel?
With every success, of course, there is that temporal achievement, the motivation that comes with that. You know, the excitement that comes with that.
I've always felt I'm ahead of you all these years.
You were,
but
and
for the final lap, you beat me to the PhD, man.
You actually were my motivation, if you didn't know. And there are a lot of things that I think and hurdles that I think I still need to work on.
Yes.
Yeah, and there are a lot of life lessons, because my philosophy is that you learn from everyone and from anything in
anywhere.
Life. And you know, like I always say to friends and you know, my children, is that those that do well, they are an opportunity to copy as exampple.
Take the good examples and learn from them.
And those that don't do well, they are warnings. So God has made a provision in our neighbors, in our friends, and I'm so happy to have you as a model. And also,
thanks, man.
Yeah, and of course there are a lot of downsides that I know.
Yes,
things that
the Achilles heel
that we learn from.
Man, it's been let's look back. When did I first meet you? I know it was at church.
Yeah, it was definitely. It was
and then at school.
And then at school, yes. Yeah, it was very way back, around the 80s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Early 80s.
Early 80s.
Because I came into Harare in 1982.
Yes, 82.
For school.
Yeah, so it must be around 84, thereabout. Yeah, that's where...
We were still in primary.
Yeah, very young, you know, in our tender age. So, yeah, that's when I've known you.
Grade 3, thereabout.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So we made a church, and because we're in the same group, we were in the same age group. So
same pathfinders.
Same pathfinders. So we were here, I think
you were the one with more swag, though, so the girls liked you.
No, it was actually, I think I was more the quietest.
No, I was quiet. I was even more, I was extra introvert.
Yeah, I know.
You had the talent, you could recite verses.
I could recite verses. Hey, yeah, you are reminding me of my old days.
They will never have a class where there's presentation by the kids and you're missing.
I would miss out. I wouldn't. In fact, I remember the first day I went to church. There was a guy, a gentleman. I think he's grown up now, because he's one of our ages. Norman. He was doing the narrative. You know, the Abraham experience. And he was playing the part of the angel, where he was then saying, Abraham, don't kill the child. And I was looking there, and it was my first day, and they said, is there anyone who can do better? And you know, I was boiling as I was seated, and I took over.
Yes.
And they said, "There is the man."
You took over from him.
I took over from him.
But so let's go back before the time we met. Where were you born? How did you grow up? Your family?
Okay.
I know you had a big family.
Yeah, we are.
The Machonas were almost like the whole church.
Yeah, I was born in Mashingo. That's where my birthplace.
Yes.
Well, no one can really have a very strong history of where they're actually born. But we moved. The more that I remember is that we then stayed in Glenview, where I grew up. That's where I have more vivid memories from. And that's where I did my schooling.
Yes.
Born in a family of 9. But my mother said there's one who was one child that they lost.
All right.
So we could have been 10, right? But we are 9, 7 boys and then 2 girls.
Yes.
I'm the 6th in that family.
So there are big guys ahead of you.
Definitely they
I
are.
remember your big brothers.
Yes.
And,
they're still,
we
want to thank God. We are all still alive.
Yes.
The 9 of us. And my mother is also still alive, which is a blessing.
Yes.
So that's a bit about where I come from.
I think your father and your mom were quite busy. My father couldn't match up. I think we only grew up 7 of us.
Yeah.
Unlike you, who was at the tail end of the family, I'm at the head of the family.
That's true.
So I'm the second born with my elder brother. We are all still alive, but my father is late now. I think your father died when we were in A-level.
Yes.
When you were doing Form 5. I remember
I was
that
actually
time.
Doing Upper 6.
Upper 6.
He actually died just 2 months before my final exams. That was one of the blows in my life where I look back and, because he got sick, in that particular year.
It was a very short illness.
Yeah, very short. And, it was quite painful to see him daily. You would see that, he's not recovering and slowly life is going out to the period where I wrote my final exams. It was a very trying time. And
I remember that time,
for for those,
because we were in the same school. I just left Upper 6 and when you were there, and I remember it was a very hard time. I remember we had prayer bands and we were praying for your family.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And for the lessons, there is at times life doesn't give you always things that you expect. And there are trying situations and challenging times that come at critical moments in your life. Like this was my exam time, my exam year, where I was supposed to make it for my final
for university.
Yeah. And here I am mentally drained, psychologically not fit. You're going home, you're expecting to see your father fit, but he's not. Yeah, he's not.
He's deteriorating.
Yeah, he's deteriorating.
Yeah. So you're quite right. I mean, we wish trouble could give us a break, but it never does.
No, it never does.
Yeah. But before we get into the details of those challenges, I think my father rested 2018.
2018, yes.
When we were growing up, his goal was, I struggled to reach my standard 6 during his time.
That's true.
None of my children are going to fail to reach Form 4. So when my youngest brother finished, he said, now I can rest. And that was like a few years back. But obviously God gave him plenty of life. Given his lifestyle of drinking and smoking, I believe my father lived a full life. He died at 73. He could have lived longer.
Longer than that, yes. That's true.
But he rested when I had already moved out of the country. I was here in South Africa with my family. But man, the death of a father is still a painful one.
Yeah, in fact,
you can never soften that blow.
That's true. In fact, I know one of the sayings I wrote in my summaries for Deuteronomy, that the family is a place where each member cannot be replaced. No one can take the place of either a child, a spouse, be it a wife or a husband. There is no one that can fit into the shoes that is left, because we are we are unique, and we are wonderfully made, like what David says. Our unique, personalities and traits.
Irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So let's rewind and go back to the early years in school. When I came into Harare in 1982, we were running away from the disturbances in Matebeleland.
Oh yes, I remember. Yes,
the political unsettled
instability.
We call it Gukura Wundi that time.
Yeah,
so
true.
Dad thought, my kids are not safe. Let me bring them over to Harare. Got into Harare, bright lights, man.
Yes, brilliant. Very
shocked.
Yeah, it was a beautiful city. Yeah, still in its glory.
Even in the townships where we were,
yes,
services were on time. Milk was delivered.
Yes.
Ice cream circulated.
Yes.
Shops were properly planned.
Yes.
Houses were built properly.
You remember those days when you would go to the shops, you want to buy milk?
Yeah.
They would tell you, leave us your address.
We'll come with the bike.
They would come.
Don't carry it.
Yes.
Don't struggle. Yes. They would
deliver the groceries. Even if you bought more groceries, not only milk.
They would bring all your groceries to your house.
They would bring that.
Man.
So, our roads were nice. While we are still at that point, talking about the glory of Harare, I remember we had a trip in 1989, if not 88. We went to Victoria.
We were grade 7. Yes. After writing your exams, you go on this special one.
Yeah, we went to Victoria Falls. It was my first time to see a portal in Livingstone, Zambia.
Wow.
You can imagine. Even the roads that we had in Harare, they were very beautiful, tarred even in our locations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I come into this great city, man. And we were so thrilled with the lights. In fact, I remember as the bus was coming into the city, we could see a line of lights on the horizon. Coming from the rural areas, the only lights we knew was fire at night. So my brother was like, look, it's burning, left side, it's burning. And Mom was laughing, and we didn't know the lights. But we came in, went into schools within Glenview. We never went to the same primary schools.
Yeah, I went to Glenview 4 primary.
There were plenty schools. I remember I went to Glenview 2 for my grade 3 and grade 4. Government was building lots of schools, even in that township.
Yes.
So when one was opened close to where we were living, we were forced to have to move to that closer school, which is Glenview 7. It was a council school. Brand new classes, brand new furniture.
Yes.
Top class teachers.
Yes.
And so I joined the soccer team at primary. I know that's the one thing you never liked me for.
Yeah, I know.
You want to tell the story?
Yes. Yeah, this man, he has a lot of skill, It's apart from the media, and he also has got a special skill in his feet.
The legs, yes.
Yeah. I remember our school and his went to, was it the competition where they were selecting the finals?
Yes, the final teams for the area.
Yeah, and he came to our home ground.
Yeah.
And we had the best. We had actually one of the best teams during that time.
I know.
And our team was kind of like hot.
Yes.
And now we're coming to this regional, playoffs.
Yeah.
And it was going to be a decider, and we thought we had a home ground advantage. And you scored
that free kick. You remember
that free kick? It was a killer. And
I remember Raymond, one of your players, Raymond, I think it was a left front attack.
Yes.
Very deft left leg.
Yeah.
He came to me and said, I'm Darawatura. Meaning you killed us.
It was true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we met at church and we were brothers.
We were brothers. Maybe I can ask you, looking at your life, you mentioned, maybe perhaps there could be somebody out there who is living in the rural areas. What lessons can we draw? You're coming from a humble background, and here you are, your lifestyle has even changed. You have even moved abroad. That's where you're staying.
I really
what
would
lessons
like
can
Firstly, I think I would like to acknowledge the decision my father made to take us from our rural areas, leaving his homestead, leaving his cattle, and many other things he had invested, and said, no, my kids are going to have to come to the city. There were security reasons during those early years because he was in the Zandla forces.
Yes, bro.
And because of the disturbances, he felt his family was not safe. So he brought us. But also he just wanted, he was a family maker by then. His family was still young. I mean, we were still little toddlers.
That's very
and
true.
he was living in high fields. So he preferred to have his family with him.
Yeah,
and I heard the
true.
story of what actually happened. I think Mom visited Harare as they were having dinner. Beautifully nice cooked meal. He said, but what have my kids eaten when I'm sitting here and eating this food?
Yes, yes.
So the lesson I learned was from him, for that decision, was that he was a homemaker.
Yes, which is very good.
And he really wanted his children to be where he is. So perhaps for fathers out there, that decision inspired me a lot.
And that's true.
For fathers out there, perhaps it's important to make sure you know where your children are.
Yeah.
And you are looking after them.
Yeah, and the decisions that you're making are in the
beneficiaries.
Yes, they are vested in the interest or the well-being of the family.
Yeah, so I really want to credit my father. But to be honest with you, it depressed me a lot in my academic performances.
Yeah, I know, because of the language barrier.
Yes.
But maybe before that,
Yes.
I think one important point to note is that life has phases.
That's true.
You're moving from a humble background.
Yes.
And comparatively, you have progressed, so to speak.
Yeah.
So in life, never.
In fact, go ahead.
Never, sit.
Exactly. And think that you've arrived. You've
arrived.
made it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think for me, life is a process of becoming. You're moving from one phase.
Yes.
You are improving, but you are never content.
Yeah. In fact,
you
for
need
me,
to continue to progress.
For me, it was a disruption, which I thought was taking me away from my comfort zone. I loved my kettle.
Yes,
I loved my friends. I loved the rural setup.
Yes.
It's lots of relatives and people I know. And here I am thrown into a very foreign space where the houses are close by. You can hear what the neighbors are saying, and you play in the street with other kids. Language was an issue. You go to school. There was an issue of dissidence in the area where I come from.
Where you came from, yes.
And some of these names, I knew them. The places, I knew them. So I got into trouble one day with the policeman when we saw the poster of Kwasela. And I said, I know him. He's from our place. The policeman had me and picked us and brought us home and said, your kids said they know someone whom the state is looking for. Shocked me to my nerves. But the disruption actually created a lot of other opportunities.
Yes.
Coming into a great city, we used to joke actually with my elder brother that if our father could bring us from that rural village to here, we will not die in the city. We're going to go to New York. We began to know about New York when we go to Harare, London, all of these places. So it inspired us to actually reach out. And though we grew up in a ghetto, those days you still had exposure to the other life on the other side. You're in a Group B school, but there are competitions and sports you play and visit other schools and you interact and you see, wow, there are other schools with better facilities than us. And
would speak better English.
And we
like what you do. Yes. For the listeners out there, some who may not be coming from a community where English is a second language, it's quite different. You would not understand it. For us, we were taught English in Shona. If you didn't know all the verbs, the doing words, and everything. And they would teach us in Shona. That's why maybe our English is quite good. I remember the times those who would come from the Group A schools. Ben, they would speak good English, speaking through the nose. And people would gather around them and donate the 5 cents
to hear them speak in the language,
speak the coins and whatever they would donate. That's very true.
So my whole primary life, just to share some developmental aspects, I never understood it until I was older. I came to Harare a bright student. My reports were always top 5.
I know.
But when I went to Harare to learn a new language in a new setup, it disrupted my academic performance. I remember I was always the last one because I was dealing with trauma.
That's true.
And I was lost literally. I was in the city, but I didn't like this place.
That's true.
And I always wanted to go back. And no one understood the stresses of Here's the biggest challenge I had. I'm coming into Harare. My name is not Shona. It's Ndebele. My surname is a very long
Ndebele.
And listening to my name being pronounced by the Shona speakers, I felt they were murdering it.
Yeah, that's true.
To the point where there was a time another teacher said, "Are you sure this name is spelled correctly? Is it not Marutsi?"
Why would that be offensive, you know?
I'm saying these are some of the things you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And every time they would ask you, where do you come from? And they want you to speak your language. And then they laugh at... There was a lot of... what's the language? What's the word I'm looking for? I felt discriminated.
Yeah. Maybe the better word is bullying.
Bullied.
Yes.
Definitely bullied at some level. But I remember... You couldn't get away with bullying me. Yeah, I was a fighter. I remember there was one student who ended up not wanting to come to school because I told him, talk about a gate.
I'm going to deal with you.
At the gate where everyone comes and goes.
Yeah. So as you are speaking, what got into my mind is that as parents at times we don't understand that even the young ones, they have depression. Yeah. They deal with issues of mental health, especially at school. Also coming from an education background, you need to understand your kids. If they have challenges, they don't want to go to school, you may need to investigate. So the takeaway point is that at whatever point in your life, you also face challenges.
Absolutely.
Irrespective of your age, you've got challenges that you have to meet, and you have mountains that you have to overcome.
Absolutely. Now, just moving on to another phase, a very interesting one. Church played a very key role in our early years. But I'll tell you, there was a time when I became a teenager, I used to dislike church.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
And I would stay away.
You would not come for the afternoons because you were quite introverted, and you didn't want to participate as well.
No,
you were a very quiet person.
But no, why? The other thing, besides
you need to tell the viewers.
Besides those factors, being quiet, my Shona wasn't as clear as it should have been. So I would speak Midlands Shona.
Okay.
Which mixes Ndebele and Shona words.
Shona, yes.
And that one sounds very funny.
That's true.
To people. So that one would make me not want to be among Shona speakers. And my English wasn't good either because I'm coming from a rural school.
Rural background,
but the real big reason, as our family grew bigger and were in town, my father didn't earn a lot of money to really afford us all the luxuries of life. I'm sure you can identify with this.
Yeah, that's true.
So there were times when I didn't have church clothes.
Oh.
I had maybe one or two, and you can't wear them every weekend. So I ended up not wanting to come to church because I didn't even have a suit.
Okay.
Or even a smart dressing. And so that kept me away from church. But also the other thing that happened was, like you said, I was very athletic. There were lots of sports games
that competed with church.
We played Saturday afternoon, and I would find myself going to Chemanza or the ground behind our house. So that's what took me away from church.
So to me, it speaks of that the reality of life. That in life you can't have everything. And secondly, maybe we need to be... But not
only everything, Blessing.
Yes.
Sometimes you have nothing
at
on
all.
Your back.
Like you mentioned, you just have... I remember even when I was baptized, our elder Rangarira was the choir director. He invited us to join...
He's the one who baptized you. He taught you, ne?
Yeah, he taught us, and we were baptized in the days of Elder Junior, and I was baptized by Pastor Shumba.
He was the same one who baptized me. But for me, I stayed 4 years in that class. You remember?
Yes, I remember.
You guys came, you were all sorted out in your mind. And I was like, who's this Jesus you're talking about?
That you're talking about. Yeah, I remember I was baptized very young, 89. So I have never turned back. But of course, there are challenges in life where...
No, if you were baptized 89, then I was baptized before you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because my certificate reads 88.
Yeah, you were baptized
so a year earlier. But I'd stayed there even long because I was told I was big and they were saying, you must go for baptism. I remember Angarra says, you're going.
Yeah, but talking about, want and days of need, you mentioned about clothing. I think what our viewers, and for those that have, need to be compassionate with those that don't have, and to really tread softly with people, because you don't know where they're coming from.
In fact, comments about someone's clothing, you could be laughing at his best attire.
Yes, that's true.
And
all they have.
Yeah, competition on who can dress the smartest can actually cause someone who doesn't afford to deviate.
To feel
because
relegated,
even if we're in a township, the wealthy families in those townships who could drive, who had fully built houses, they had electricity. We didn't have electricity.
Yeah, that's very true. I also remember talking about clothing. I had to borrow my brother's jacket, and my brother, because like I said, I come from a family of 9. He used to smoke. Thank God he doesn't smoke anymore now.
Great.
And when you would go to church, with that jacket,
Machona, what were you doing?
People would think that the young man is coming from a puff, because we wanted to be smart and smartly dressed. But I think, like you rightly mentioned, church for us played a very big role, and I think it's something that we may need to really talk about, because
so let's talk a little bit about it.
Yes, because for me, I would give credit to the family, the church as a family, because by then you would spend much of your time either in practice. I remember we would start choir practice in the morning.
You joined the choir when you were very young.
Yes, when I was very young. I started music when I was very young, when I was at primary school. And we were singing in the choir. We would start choir practice, 6:30 in the morning to 8 o'clock. And then later on, we formed the youth choir. We would have youth choir from 1 o'clock to about 3 o'clock.
When the afternoon classes start.
Afternoon, yes. That is Sunday. And then...
for Sunday,
yes. Sunday practice. And then later on, we formed other musical groups. The first group that I joined was...
Royal Sentinel.
Royal Sentinel was the second one.
Really?
Golden in the morning.
Golden morning with Chikandiwa.
Yes, the late brother Chikandiwa. Yeah, that was the first group. And that group we practiced, was it from 8:30 to 10 o'clock? So my itinerary was kind of like packed on Sundays.
Wow.
Then later on, Royal Sentinel. So there I was active in all those groups. So I was in the choir, I was in the Golden in the morning, I was in the youth choir, I was Royal Sentinel.
Then came later on
Singspiration. So I can't even imagine how I
by the time you were doing Singspiration, you're trying to redefine yourself now.
Yeah, that's very true. Because I dropped other groups and trying to refocus and finding my feet, which is very important. You and
Daxon used to... My foot ran again. Mashish. With Mashish, you always so musical. No, but I think you actually... These are stories we never talk about.
Yes.
You distinguished yourself in music.
Yeah, that's
true.
From
a very young age, you were trained by very musical people.
Yeah, that's true.
You embraced the gift. I remember when you left Royal Sentinel, you were fighting for the position of director.
No,
you were saying, no, Kumalo, you've been there for too long.
Yeah, it's true.
We now also are mature. We want to
these
direct.
are the dark side that are coming for those that know the people. What we are simply saying, at times you come to a realization where you want to let that which is in you to come out.
Yeah, and flourish.
In fact, there are certain people who think that people don't grow.
That's a typical African thing.
Yes,
you meet a man as old as we are, and he looks at you and says, Machona,
yes,
I remember you. You were such a young boy. Remember I was changing your...
And they call you by your first name. Yet you have married, your sons are there. It's for me, it's a mentality that is manipulative. It's somebody that wants to manipulate you.
Not only manipulate, they want to always feel like they are older and more mature and wiser than you.
Yeah, of course, they will remain older if they are old, but the fact that there is respect that is required, and respect obviously comes with maturity. So for me, I call them young, old but young children. They always see you in diapers.
They have the number, but not the experience.
So the point that I wanted to make was, give those that are below you or your disciples a chance to shine. I know you started this ministry as MelVee. I'm happy you are training your young boys, you are training Andrew and so forth. There's a point where you must let them out. You must give them wings. They must do everything.
In fact, I believe, Machona, if we had espoused proper... This is now a lesson looking back. Some of the music we were singing back then, if we had mastered these principles of leadership,
yes, that's true,
we will be very far.
We'll be very far. For those that are listening, they may say, where is inspiration? I think you should go on MelVee YouTube. You'll be able to find our music. In fact, when my son listened to our recording, which is in MelVee YouTube, and he said, you recorded this in the 90s. Wow, man, you were real musician.
We were solid.
You were solid. Your music is very good. As you're listening to it now, you think it was recorded last year or so. So, but those are days now.
So we did music. I think I joined you in Royal Sentinel first.
Yes, then we
I experienced your sagas as a sign of growing up. But we were just coming in, invited to sing because someone heard me sing in the congregation and felt,
this man,
who's this guy? Please come join us.
Come join us.
So I came and sang tenor. And then I think you left and then formed Singspiration with my sisters.
Yes, your sister,
Sethule
and Sefiso.
And after I listened to you singing, I felt this one is nicer. I was in the youth choir trying to sing bass. I don't know where the bass was coming from. No, I guess we thought bass makes you look like the macho man.
The macho man.
But I did sing bass. I don't know what we were doing there. But we were in the youth choir with Nelson directing and Daxon at some point.
Yes.
But I then came and joined you in Singspiration, and I think I really enjoyed those years.
Yeah, that's very true.
In fact, Singspiration was so good. I even got my girlfriend from the other side of town.
Yes, and to join
to come and join this group, and she was part of our
singing. In fact, I spoke to Chris, he's the director of Reunion. He says, man, you don't know the motivation that you gave us as we were young boys.
Wow.
Even my friend Trust Chinyandura says, I always admired the way you guys sang.
There was a guy who used to travel with us everywhere we went to. Jabun.
Yes, Felix Jabun, yes.
In fact, he would always push to say if we're in church, he looks at us, he says, you're here. He goes and tells the elder, please
give them a chance to sing. Yeah, so I think the lessons that I think we can give as take home there is work for God, when you have the opportunity. Now we are reflecting, of course, we're still in the ministry. I think there's a text which says, whatever your hands find to do, yes, do it with all your might, with all your strength. Because there's a time where you say, when you're in the grave, yeah, of course, there's nothing you can do there. Even before the grave, there's a time where you say, I don't like this. I think the scripture says that, where you say, you look at it and say, let me do this. There's a change in preference and a change in taste. Yeah. But of course, the history for me is a launch pad for looking at the future. Like I'm rightly saying, I'm still in church. I've never smoked. I only tasted beer when I was in grade 7, but I didn't drink it. So I remain the Nazarite here. I'm a true Nazarite here. I've never tasted. In fact, my father would kill you if he saw you trying to give me beer. But the reason why I'm saying this is I believe that a lot of successful people, they don't tell their dark side. Yes. They always tell their stories from the sunny side, and the stories are incomplete. They hide their faults and whatever they don't tell us their failures so that we can learn from them. This is how I tasted beer. When I was in grade 7, that is where I used to play with these friends. So that's your last year in primary? Yes, my last year in primary school. High school. And my friends are coming, they are so exhilarated, they are having this fun. I said, guys, what is really happening? Tell me, why are you more excited than all of us? Yeah. They were behaving quite funny. And then we went to one of our friends' houses. And then they gave me a lion, Wow, the brown bottle. It's a brand of beer. Yeah. And then I tasted it. Wow, man, it tasted so bad, and I spewed it. That's I never swallowed it. I said, guys, what's nice about this stuff? But later on, as I grew up, I also ran away or had a dislike in beer, because I grew up in a family of people who used to drink. And as I looked at the lifestyles, and then I said, but I of course give it to the grace of God, because He found us while young. Yeah. For me, I'll tell you this. When I was born, I found my father already drinking, but he was an STA. Went to Lower Gwelu. Okay. But he learned to drink and smoke at Lower Gwelu, an Adventist institution, and he regrets it. And he used to tell us, be careful who you become friends with. Yes, that's very true. Like you're saying, it's always friends. Yes, and that's true. Peer group, you want to fit in. Yes, that's true. And so he would always come home and says, I have no issue with God besides. If God has an issue with me, it's on my beer. Okay. I don't steal from anyone. I don't talk bad about. He was a quiet man. But when he was drunk, he was a different father. And I can tell you that's the reason why I never wanted to drink beer. Because I said, if this is how it makes you look and behave, then I don't want people to see me like that. I had so much pride in myself. Just last week, I was at a place with one of my nieces, and somebody came, and when you're drunk, what it said, slay dying, and you can't stand. You can't even be, look after yourself and be decent. Yes. Besides, many of the young people that we grew up with, our age mates, it's sad to say that most of them, are buried. They made the choice. They are buried. That's true. They are buried, some over 10 years, buried because of the lifestyle. I started witnessing many of my age groups dying, whom I was with at high school. And if you look at it, it was always either a woman or beer, or just bad choices they made in terms of how they ran their lives. The warning that we get to our viewers, your lifestyle, the way you handle yourself, the way you are temperate, the way you eat, the way you drink, it has a bearing on your health.
I think one day we must
they say you are what you eat.
Yes, one day we must do lessons from our fathers, because as much as my father, most of my young ages, he was not coming to church. There was one day he came to church. It was in a campaign that was done by Pastor Mackenzie Kambizi, 4 weeks campaign in Glen.
Okay.
You know those days when we didn't have lapels?
Yeah.
And you'd put a hanger around your coat and put the mic.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was
he
innovation.
came because he said that man preached to me a lot. So he had a tag of the Spirit in his life, but the habit was stronger. So some early youth habits that he picked up held him back from coming to God.
Yeah, that's
but he finally did.
A warning, yeah.
Finally came back, finally was ordained. He died an elder in the church.
Yes, I remember.
But many of his years were wasted away. In fact, there's a day he came to me, I could see his eyes are glittering, almost in tears, and saying, I didn't know you are like this. I didn't make you like this.
Yes.
Someone did. Because I don't remember teaching you to do
all
this.
these principles.
I said, Dad, but you prayed for me. And I could see the tears almost welling up. And I said, didn't you?
Yeah.
God was faithful to the prayers of a drunkard father.
I've also a challenge that I want to pose to our viewers. You know, like I mentioned, I was brilliant as a public speaker, and as a preacher, I started preaching on a very
that
young
I can
age.
clap hands for you. I know you were very gifted. I looked up to the talent.
You know, but one person maybe, you know, had this that I want to give a challenge to all the parents out there that have kids that go to church. My father encouraged us to go to church, though he drank.
In fact, my father would come and do an audit of who went to church.
You went to,
you know how you do it?
Yes.
You'd say, put your feet on the light.
Yeah, because
let me see,
which shoe, yes.
You were not putting on shoes today. Somehow you could tell.
You could tell you didn't go to church.
Yeah.
But the encouragement that I want is that when I participated at church, one elder said, I wish your father was here.
True,
and
man.
he would see, you know, the talent that you have, the talent that you have in music, the talent that you have in preaching, the impact that you're having.
So fathers must go to church and be with their sons and their daughters.
And see. And there's no better place to raise kids than in the house of God.
Do you know when I first went to church with my father, to really have him sit in the pew and I'm participating, and I was preaching on Daniel 2, 2007.
Okay.
I already had my family 7 years into my marriage. And when he came visiting and I was preaching in Kempton Park, and it hit me that day, man. I was very emotional, but I quickly had to move on.
Yeah.
It was the first time in my life when I was almost late in my 30s to have my father and my mother sit there.
Sit in the pew and you
all
are
the years you know me in
yeah.
ministry.
Yeah.
That was the first time in my 30s when I had my family already.
You know, it's a memorable experience.
It hit him hard. That's the day he came to me and said, you know that day you preached at that church? I saw God because I said, this is not my son I raised.
Yeah.
So fathers must be present.
Yeah, they must be present. But we also want to acknowledge the father figures that we had in church. There are people that molded us and that kept on encouraging us. You know, that
you
gave
remember
us
any names?
Yeah, I want to give a thumbs up to Elder Jinya.
We are church. We are
joining a church. You know, he was quite encouraging.
There was Elder Zembe.
There was Elder Zembe, very quiet. You know, but in fact, I want to acknowledge the leadership skills that, you know, Elder Zembe. And
there was the Mishi family.
Elder Mishi, yes, that name was almost going out.
Yes.
And of course, Brother McIntyre, John Chipunza, the late
the Chirimo brothers,
the Chirimo brothers, Mistake and McIntyre. But I want to say
there was the Gadzikwa brothers as well.
Yes, the Gadzikwa.
In fact, that was a huge church.
And I see many of them are scattered around. But the most important thing that I want to highlight is that they played a very pivotal role in bringing us up.
I think for me, many of
grooming us for leadership.
You would agree with me that besides grooming us for leadership, we resisted that.
Yeah, true.
You'd agree with me.
Yeah, that's
Whenever
true.
we're invited,
and
they would say, no,
no, you are not going.
You are staying here.
You are staying here.
And we're like,
look,
are you not happy we're in ministry? And no, serve here. Bitter, sweet experiences.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
I guess for young people out there, they would think that parents and elders at church, when they institute certain policies, they're actually suppressing them.
Yeah, that's true.
But it saved us.
Yeah, in
many ways to know you must serve where you are.
Because charity begins at home.
You can't just be running everywhere and you're not visible here.
And also, a successful individual is disciplined.
Very
and
true.
Discipline is a fundamental principle in every successful individual.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it stands out, or it sticks out as one of the pillars of success.
Yeah.
Whether it be it in education, in sports, in music, or whatever industry.
In fact,
if you are not disciplined,
then
it's the end of the game.
For
because discipline tells you when to do things, how to do them, to what extent, to the level of quality that you need to do that. It's all about discipline. You know, discipline says it's time to wake up. Your body may be resisting to say, I need to sleep, I need to rest. But discipline says, no,
I have to do
you have to do it. They are must. So I think those are principles that we draw from those gentlemen.
I think it's inculcated even in our language. When we thank people, we say, thank you so much, Musaneta.
That's true, yes.
Musaneta, you know, don't be tired and doing good, not only for us, but for others. In those principles, for me, I see that many of the times we say this one is successful, we are actually saying he is consistent, which is exactly what you're saying. It's discipline.
Yes.
Do what you have to do at the time you're supposed to do it.
Small steps really count.
Exactly. Yeah. If it's a video, make sure you're consistent and release it.
Yeah, that's true.
After 5 years, they'll look back and say, "Man, look at what you have." And many people will begin to look at you. And as you consistently do, you get refined. You get to a steady state where everything is running smoothly. Yeah. And you're able to. So let's transition from church and talk a little bit. Maybe we can end this one with this phase. 2 phases I want us to focus on.
Okay.
We finished high school, man.
Yes.
Then life happened.
Life happened, yes.
You are out of your parents' house.
Yes.
You are either in university. But your path through university to PhD, I want you to talk a little bit about that. And then I want us to finish with family.
Yeah, okay.
All right, the startup of our family. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about families later, but I want us to hang it right there.
Yeah, I think my journey to PhD is quite fascinating. I grew up as a brilliant boy. I think you remember that. Yes. I was not only talented as a speaker and what have you.
You were a runner too,
yes.
You were a runner.
Yeah,
mid-distance
runner. I was into sport. But academically, I was very gifted as well.
I remember that, yes.
I was bright from grade 1, grade 7. You know, I was almost the top in class. I would get the prizes from Machona to everything. And then when we went to Glen High 1, you know, I was brilliant. But unfortunately, you know, come O level, I didn't perform as to the expectation.
All right.
You know, I didn't shine as that much. Even when I went to A level, I know you proceeded to university. Yeah. I didn't. I took the course of the professional. I did a professional course.
What is it?
It's called now corporate governance, but it's called Chartered Institute.
Yes.
Yeah, I did that. For those that may, you know, the point that I want to drive home is never give up.
True. So you couldn't make it into
university. There was only one university. Now there are plenty of universities.
Very competitive.
It was very competitive because of the points that I had and the affirmative action. Then I couldn't qualify to go to university.
Straight into university.
Yeah. But nonetheless, I took the route that I took. That's why I said
professional qualification.
Yes, it's a professional qualification. And you know, I soldiered on. It was quite difficult because I was going to work and also learning, but I later on finished, then progressed because you had done your university. So I was saying, you know, I need to continue in pace with my friends. So you were quite you motivated me. Yeah. And then you...
I just say I was taking all the girls. And you're like, no, I have to be there.
Yeah.
No, but that says a lot about your qualities,
yes,
and I like that.
Yes, and then I remember you then progressed. You went to Nottingham.
Yes, the UK for postgrad,
for your postgrad, and you did your masters. And I said, wow, I need to, you motivated me. You know, I need to also progress and do my masters. I did my masters. And then you
I must say, by the time you said you're doing masters, I realized this guy is competitive. This guy is not is distinguishing himself.
Yeah, you know,
I'm there.
Yeah, and then from my masters, I then progressed to my PhD. Yes. You had hung your boots. That's where I'd left it on. And you know, I went through, and here I am. I finished my doctorate in leadership and complexity. I specialized in systems thinking.
All right.
Yeah, which is a very unique discipline and a combination with leadership that brings a unique perspective to viewing things.
Yeah,
because
and how things
operate, the interconnectedness, and how people should view the world in a more holistic manner, and how small decisions and changes in various systems actually have impact in the consequences or the ultimate outcomes that may come. It's a fascinating field.
I think it's actually future science right there.
Yeah, it's a future science.
And I think if our leaders could sit down with you, and I'm talking about leaders at every level.
Yes, that's very true.
Because sometimes I don't think politicians understand the impact of looting.
That's true.
State
and
resources,
and so
corruption,
yes,
and nepotism, and comradeship, appointing people who are not qualified.
Yes.
How does that impact on the national economy and drill down to the household level?
Yes, that's true.
This is what you're talking about.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Actually, in systems thinking, we talk about small changes. Those are the ones that leverage, the
bigger decisions.
The bigger decisions.
Yeah. You don't just come and say, today we are cutting every currency, boom.
Yes.
No more US dollars.
Yeah. So it's those small changes that
I
come.
hope I'm not getting into trouble with our leaders.
You won't get into trouble because you are speaking something that is very pertinent, and something that is progressive, and something that will have a bearing for our future generations. Actually, they say small things. They say big doors. They swing on small hinges.
Wow. That's
so
powerful.
From a systems perspective,
big, but big and heavy doors.
Yes. So it is those small principles and small items or small issues that we need to take care of that will be able to leverage the whole system.
Wow.
Okay, so that's very important. So I was talking about my education. So my point when I look back is that never give up. That's the point that I wanted to bring. Never give up.
Yeah.
Never give up on life, and always love what you do.
Yes.
I think when I didn't qualify for my university, I had a lot of regret, but at the same time, we didn't have much of career guidance.
That's true.
But what I want to say is that maybe as I look at life, God just gave us the fighting spirit, which is the second point that I may want to emphasize.
But never underestimate the trauma and the pain you went through.
Yeah.
At that level, when you're doing A-level and preparing for
my final examination.
But also the affirmative action that just came by.
Yes, that's very true.
I wish if the president was alive, we would be telling him what you did that year. You see what it did to this man.
You know, I never qualified. But thank God, here I am. I found my way back.
Wow.
And I celebrate. I never regret. I don't think I have any regrets in terms of my academic path now.
Yeah.
I did this to motivate even my my children.
That's
now,
good,
as I qualified, they're saying, you have set a pace for us now. We have a tall order.
Yeah.
And I said, well,
you have no excuse.
You have no excuse.
Exactly.
Because life is all about progressing.
Exactly.
It's like I mentioned at the beginning, it's a process of becoming.
Yes.
You need to be improving daily, and you need to be working on your skills and sharpening your soul.
Yes.
It's very important. It's very critical.
I want to put you on the spot here because I signed your marriage certificate.
As my best man.
Yeah, so those years, there was pressure to get married at some point.
Yeah, that's very true. Even now.
What tipped your decision to get married, by the way?
Well, I'd found love.
You had found love in loveness.
And for your own information, loveness means full of love.
Wow.
And she is. Yes. I found love, and
you found it very far from
our vicinity. Yeah, where we lived. Well, I can say God opens avenues, and
we're going to talk more about this one. I want a full series on this one.
Okay. Yeah.
But
he's
yes,
the executive producer. So
all I can tell them is I signed your certificate.
Yeah, you played a very big role. So it's good that we're sharing this. I think it comes as an encouragement to whoever is watching to say you need to value the friendships that you have.
To be honest with you, as I grow older, that's one thing I realize is most important.
Yeah, it's very critical.
One of my mentors said, Melusi, create networks that work.
That's true.
Anyone who's in your network who doesn't add value to you is always
milking you. Yes.
So that's not a network that works. You need to have people around you who will not only be at your level, but will challenge you.
Yeah, that's very true.
And it's a very difficult thing for life, but I've had to learn it.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I've seen it impacting my friendships. From schoolmates. Perhaps you're one of the very few remaining friends I have.
The last one standing.
From primary, I mean, you can look and see how many you still have.
I'm honest, because at times I speak to your face to say, no, this, and
you challenge my thinking.
I challenge your thinking.
And here you are, I'm chasing after you now for my PhD.
It's even the productions that you do at times, I review them for those that are listening and criticize, saying, no, you don't need to do this.
But the lesson I'm drawing there for my children, I always tell them this. Some of the friendships you're spending too much time on right now will never add value to you tomorrow.
Very true. That's very true.
If God blesses you with that friend that sticks close and is challenging your life, don't throw that one away.
That's very true.
I think my father always said this. If I see Machona not happy, it's because of you.
That's very true.
That man is a good man.
Wow.
My father respected you, man.
Thank you.
Machona.
It's quite a humbling.
He's a man, that one is a man.
It's quite a humbling comment,
So we got married very far from our districts. You and I married very far.
We married very far. But why did you marry very far?
Samson's mother will always say, haven't you found one amongst them here? But that's an interesting story. We want to talk a little bit more about it. But maybe let's wrap up with looking at our growing up years. Not that we've stopped growing, but our youthful years. Maybe give us three top lessons from either your childhood, your school years, your college years. What are some of the highlights you would say, this defines my life and this is what I've learned to be here as Blessing, Dr. Blessing Machona?
Yes. I think the first point for my education life is that be consistent. It's very important to be consistent. Well, I could have achieved this earlier than I did, but at one point, like I said, I faced a trauma, And also, as I reflected, the church life balance, there's need to also not to overdo certain things. Like I mentioned, I was saying 5 groups, you know, spending all my Sundays at church and stuff. I think that also add into my there's need for a work-life balance, you know, so that at least you are focusing on, you also need to grow spiritually equally as you grow in the other facets of life. So you need that balance, which is quite important. It's something that I would say it's a lesson that I need to reflect on. And in terms of education, never give up. I think that's the point that summarize my achievements. Never give up. There are times where you fall and where you fail in terms of your desires and what you want to achieve in life. The point is you don't need to remain stuck and crying in your tears because you never achieved. There's always a way out. You need to have a fighting spirit. You need to have that tenacity to say, I need to get up and go and achieve. Once you have that, it may take years, but at the end of it, success is success, regardless of the time that you go through it. And in any case, as you go through it, I think one writer said, in fact, it was a professor, he was saying, there is much that we have to learn from people that never succeeded, because for them they have a narrative of certain things that don't work, that didn't work, and from those experiences, at least we can derive lessons that can help others who are in equally the same journey. So never give up. Always keep fighting. Then, in terms of life itself, I think it's good to stick to the faith. It's also an important factor because it protects you health-wise, it protects you spiritually, it protects you physically. I think at one point, you remember, you and I think, and your brother Cleophas, we were karatekers.
Judo.
We were karatekers.
Don't start me now.
But you know, we gave that up because we found, you know, it really doesn't work. And, you know, in as much as they talk about self-defense, but I think when you are guided by faith, you have a higher principle or higher order principles that govern you, that help you to, you know, be diplomatic, to find peace, to manage conflict, to manage the tongue, to manage your relations, and to get the best out of any situation without using force. I think that's a very fascinating thing, which is very important. So
good one.
I think those are the things that I think I can summarize my life. Whatever it takes, keep going. You know, even if you fall, stand up. And pick yourself up and
those are very powerful lessons. I think for me, you've mentioned a few of them, but I think the biggest lesson I've learned in life is that God is the difference between success and failure.
That's true.
God. I remember making some prayers when things were very tough and I knew I was not doing well. When I made it into high school and got a place, I prayed a prayer that I'll never forget. I said, Lord, help me. I need to pass my O level. This was Form 1. Our stream was the biggest that year. We were 20 classes and we were scattered from the main campus to Glenview 2, to Glenview 4. We were everywhere. So 8 of our classes were in Glenview 2. That's where I used to go to. Even my first school in Harare, I was there. Man, I prayed many prayers those years. Things were tough. We couldn't afford 3 square meals a day. I couldn't carry a lunch box to school sometimes. But I can tell you this. God was the difference.
I think that's a very important point.
He was the difference, and my father used to hum it. He used to hum it.
That's very true.
And I'll tell anybody out there, find God and the rest will follow.
That's very true.
My transformation, even my parents can't explain it to you.
That's
from true. End of the class to the front line of the class. From Form 1 upwards, God changed things. I would do my own Bible studies at home. I would study books by myself. I remember when I finished Form 4, one brother gave me a book, the late Derek Mlilo, Daniel Reviews the Future. I consumed that thing in less than a few days. And I went back and I read it again.
Okay.
I went back and this thing just opened my mind. And even when I went to high school, A level, my life was changed.
Yeah, because of that culture.
Because of that faith in God.
That's true.
And I know I owe a lot of this to my parents.
That's true.
I know because there's a day I found my mom praying for us in tears.
Which is another point, yeah. We want to say heads up to all the mothers
man,
there.
It changed my life, man.
Heads up to our mothers.
This story is a miracle. Maybe let me share it quickly. So I leave the home. I go to school. There was remember the hot seating arrangement?
Yes.
You come early in the morning, and then you come in the afternoon. We were going for the hot seating for the afternoon, but I left early because there was nothing to do at home. There was no food, and I had to be at school on duty as a prefect. When others were going out, I had to make sure I'm on duty. That day, I was the first one to get to school at 7 a.m. The corridors were swept clean. I put my bag in the classroom, went outside just to get some vitamin D. Machona, I don't know where this money came from. A red $10 note, brand new, came being flipped by the wind towards me. Those days, $10 would buy you a week-long food.
Yeah, that's true. And there you are
hungry. Picked up this thing. I'm hungry, man. I put it in my jacket. Who's here? Who's here? There was no one. I couldn't leave the station because I wanted to run home. And when I got home, I found my mother in prayer.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even know. I just went into the room and there she was praying. And when I stopped there, she was mentioning us. She was top family and all of this. I owe it to my parents.
That's very true.
Even my late father, in his drunken years, he knew God.
That's very true.
You know, he lost his pick head, the digging instrument, at Glen 8 when we dug the foundation.
Yes.
We couldn't find it. We looked everywhere, checked all the tools that were there. God buried it there, and I said, Dad, it means you must always come back here.
Yeah, that's where you see these.
So I owe it to parents. If a young man out there, you've got God-fearing parents, my lesson is listen to them.
Yeah,
I believe in the township.
I think also from an African context, all parents, even I don't know other nations, they wish well for their children,
which is a godly thing to do. Yeah.
Even like I mentioned in this narrative that my father, despite the fact that he didn't come to church, he would always emphasize that we go to church.
Go to church.
Yes. Even my mother, I think mothers, heads up to them, like I mentioned.
Oh, yes, man.
Ever praying for us, caring.
Yes. I remember the days I was in high school. She would wake up at 3, come and wake me up. I didn't have an alarm. She was consistent to wake me up. She would cook my porridge. There was a special pot she had bought, just one portion enough for me to cook in the morning. I would leave before daybreak to catch the bus to be in Harare High by 7 o'clock. So I would leave like 4 a.m., 5 o'clock. She would follow me. I didn't know. She would follow me to make sure I passed this open space, which was an open ground. By the time she sees me on the other side where there were houses, she would go back home.
Yeah.
Yes. And so the last thing I want to share from my years back, the lesson is there's no substitute to succeeding. You have to work hard. There's no substitute.
Yes.
To passing and succeeding, you have to put in the effort.
That's very true.
And
that's very true.
I think
maybe you need to expand when you're saying working hard.
Put the efforts.
Yeah.
If it's at school, You've got the minimum text you're given to read.
To read, yes.
Read wider.
That's very true.
Go beyond the minimum set books. Read broadly.
Yeah.
Consume as much literature as you can.
Yeah.
In our days, we would study newspapers.
Yeah, that's true.
We would ask for magazines if we couldn't afford to buy them.
We didn't have much, though.
There was no internet then, so we would read magazines.
We would read magazines and we would read our books, the textbooks.
We would join libraries.
Yes, we joined libraries. The textbooks were very limited.
Exactly. So you will book out this book and you read it, you bring it back. So there's
I want
no
to testify there. I think I remember when we were doing, you were a year ahead of me. I remember when actually doing my lower six, we would meet at Glen and we would read
in the night.
In the night, we would read all night.
Yeah,
and maybe just take a nap and and go. That determination was there.
That was special,
yes, yeah. We would go. Each day we would go and read, sleep at school.
Yes.
Go and
So for me, the routine was I would go to Mbare, Harare High. Come back late in the afternoon, change uniform, eat, and then pick up my study books, go to my old high school. We booked a classroom and the school allowed us to use it for study. And so put your effort.
Yeah, that's very true.
Study hard. God cannot come and study for you.
For you, yes. There are things that prayer cannot do for our viewers out there.
Don't pray for passing exams. Pray for knowledge to gain.
Pray for knowledge.
Exactly.
Yes, you need to do all you can.
Exactly.
God will not come to pass an examination for you.
He will remind you what you've studied. And help your studying to the areas that the exam will come in.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very true.
So I think with having said that, man, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
I hope this was useful and therapeutic.
It was. And I hope also to our listeners, they gleaned a lot of lessons from this narrative. The whole idea, I think, is it's not just only about our lives.
Yeah.
But they say the wise man learns from anyone and from everything.
Exactly.
Everything is an object lesson for study.
Yes.
And I think by opening up, we are not opening up to our enemies, but even them, we are also challenging them.
Even our enemies will then realize they were not fighting us. In fact, sometimes we must just be glad and celebrate our enemies.
Yeah,
because
that's very true. They gave us energy. They gave us fuel.
They were the wings under our flight.
But we don't have.
No, even if we have them, the principle is we used to have enemies in our earlier years.
That's true.
I remember you couldn't go to Afgate to pick up wires. There were boys you would meet along the way.
Along and say, no, you are coming to the wrong territory.
You will always have enemies in life. I think you will always have people who dislike you.
That's very true.
But we were never born to be liked.
That's true.
We were born to fulfill the purpose. And our purpose sometimes may not serve everybody.
That's true.
But the beauty of life is that wherever you are, make a difference.
That's true. Make a difference.
Let the name of the Lord be praised, and don't live to yourself. We grew up in a very competitive society where there were very few resources, and we competed against everything. But God has taught us that someone is better than you. You must serve others than yourself.
Your happiness.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And to our viewers out there, thank you so much for taking time to listen to us, ruminating, remembering, reminiscing, and thanking God for the years that He has led us thus far. If you have not liked this channel, please do subscribe. Do check some videos that we have done. That will be very useful for you to listen and learn and be inspired. God bless you. See you on the next episode of MelVee Talks. This is Melusi. Goodbye.
Thank you.